Remembering my father, Richard Snyder.
Have any of you ever wondered if your father loved you? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, growing up, I wondered whether my father loved me. I remember asking my mother when I was 10 or 11 if my father loved me. And she said, yes, of course he does. I said, Mom, I don't remember him ever telling me he loves me. Yes, son, his father was the same way, or is the same way, your grandfather. But he spends a lot of time with you. He goes to your games. He watches sporting events with you. He takes you to games. Some people say they love each other all the time and don't really mean it. A couple years later in 6th grade, I was struggling. I was not a very good student, maybe average. And we had a test coming up that Friday on European countries and capitals. It was a couple of days away, and I don't think I knew half of them yet. My teacher and my mother struggled, and I was so frustrated. And I know my mother was. And at one point, she finally just said, I give up. And she said, Richard, can you help your son? My father looked at the map, and he did something that the teacher and my mother did not do. He said, Richard Ray, think of those countries as Dallas Cowboys. And I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan at that time. The big countries are linemen. The smaller countries are receivers and running backs. We gave them names. Romania was Roger Staubach. Poland, I remember Poland, was Ed Podolak, who was not a Cowboy, but he went to the University of Iowa, where my father had gone to school. Friday came, and I aced the quiz, the test. In fact, I had the top score in the entire class. And I realized my father loved me. He was able to unlock what for me was all Greek to me. It had no meaning. They were just names. I had never been to Europe, but he was able to unlock what had no meaning for me by giving it meaning, by showing meaning, by tapping into something I did understand and loved at the time, football and the Dallas Cowboys. Years later, Thanksgiving time, Ryan's speech reminded me of this. Normally for Thanksgiving, we would spend time in Arizona with my mother. My parents had divorced many, many years. In fact, they divorced after 20 years of marriage, a very unhappy marriage. They were very different people. And it was a very difficult marriage. They always said they stayed together for the children. Bad reason. They're very poor reason. But my father, after that, was pretty much a recluse. We rarely saw him. And I remember in 2013, we decided to stay home. We had been to my mother's for many Thanksgivings, and either that we'd rotate between my mother or my wife's family. And that year we decided to stay home. And I remember telling my wife, I'm going to call my father. I don't want him to be alone this Thanksgiving. Normally my father would have begged off, and he said he wasn't driving at that point. I said, Dad, get on the airplane, get on the bus, come see us. We don't want you to be alone for Thanksgiving. And for some reason, he said yes. He came for Thanksgiving, and he actually stayed a week into December. And he stayed for my son's December 6th birthday. 10 days, almost 2 weeks. We had time to really talk, as we hadn't talked for in years and years. After my son's birthday, he said, it's time to go. I remember as I was dropping him off at the bus, something inside me said, I need to. I said, Dad, I love you. I hadn't told him that for years. I reached out my hand as we had always done to give him a handshake. And he put his arms out and gave me a hug. One of the few hugs I can remember from him. And he whispered in my ear, I'm proud of you, Richard Ray, and I love you. Tears were streaming down my face. He said, I hope to see you and your brothers in Arizona for Christmas. I said, Dad, please do. Mom would be happy to see you too. Well, Christmas came and I got the inevitable call. He didn't show up. He didn't want to make waves with the family, especially my mother. I remember talking to him and said, Dad, I really appreciate your coming for Thanksgiving. I'll see you in summer. We're going to come up to Vegas to see you. I got a call in late March, early April. Are you the son of Richard Ray Snyder? I said, yes. Your father died. I thank God I took the time to call my father and spend 2 weeks with him, Thanksgiving, so he wasn't alone. But he died alone. His body wasn't discovered for almost a week. It's sad, but I thank God that I reached out to him and we had that time together. So whatever your relationship is with your father, parents, brothers, take that time out because you never know how long they're going to be. I'm so happy I took that time for my father to tell him I love him and finally hear from him, I love you, son. Mr. Toastmaster.